So today we are going to concentrate mainly on the main part of this chapter, that is case study based questions. So we will be discussing main land design today. So let's start with the class. Okay, so we are going to begin with land design. Just a sec. Let me also open the whiteboard. Okay. So land design, that is, we are going to basically discuss about case study based questions. Firstly, the thing is preparation. We need to know certain things before we actually start designing the land. So, general network design process. In general, the network design problem consists of the following three general elements. Number one, environment given. Number two, performance constraints. And number three, inter-networking variables. So firstly, we have to figure out, we have to analyze the environment within which we have to design a particular network. We have to also keep in mind the limitations of performance given the cost and the hardware which we are going to use, and inter-networking variables, that is certain factors. Environment given, location of hosts, that is location of the nodes where the computers would be kept, where network devices like switch, hub, repeater would be kept. So, and specifically hosts means what? The computers or the workstations. Servers, if we have any server, if we want that it has to be a client server network, then we would definitely need servers to be placed. So where servers have to be placed. Terminals, that is, if suppose we are using a kind of a complete dedicated client server network where we would have one server and multiple terminals only, so that other end nodes, projected traffic for environment, that is how we have to speculate about what would be the amount of traffic in this network. Projected costs for delivering service levels, that is costs regarding everything, regarding the hardware which we are going to purchase, cost regarding the levels of service which would be provided, that is all the different features or functions of this network. So cost regarding all that. So projected costs means it is an estimated cost. Okay, that is a complete estimation will be done to figure out how much money has to be invested into it. Next is performance constraints. Network reliability. We have to make sure that network is reliable. Even if something goes wrong, the entire network shouldn't stop working. It should continue with its work. Traffic throughput, that is, uh, it should be like maximum work should be done within less time. So traffic should be like, it should not uh, create congestion in the network, but it should not be like just because we don't want congestion in the network there won't be any traffic. No, there traffic has to be allowed, but there has have to be ways and means to figure out how this traffic can be efficiently managed. Host client computer speeds, so it will also depend upon the speed of the computers which are connected. Next is inter-networking variables. Network topology, we have to decide about the topology, whether we are going to connect all the devices in a bus topology or a star topology or a ring topology, tree, mesh, graph, and whichever topology is very suitable for the place where we are looking for setting up a network. Sometimes it may happen depending upon the type of infrastructure available. Bus topology would be suitable, like if we have a kind of platform running wall to wall, okay, and it is covering all the four walls, so in that case what would be suitable? Bus topology or ring topology would be suitable. Or if we have a kind of a system, a place in the center where we can keep a switch, or we can like our computer lab, so star topology would be suitable. So topology also has to be decided upon. Line capacities, that what transmission medium are we going to use, and what would be the capacities of those transmission mediums. Packet flow assignments, that is how packet has to flow, how data packets have to travel from one computer to the other. So packet flow assignments also have to be kept in mind. Okay, that how we are assigning, whether we are using, usually it is packet switching which is followed, but if suppose somebody wants to use message switching, although that never happens. Okay, so it is basically we are using TCP IP and it follows packet switching network. So we also have to keep in mind that packets have to flow from one place to another without any collision between the packets. So an efficient collision detection mechanism also has to be applied. Next is a very important rule. I want you people to write it or make a note of this 80-20 rule. This is very important when we will be deciding upon the structure of the network. 80% of the traffic on a given network segment is local. That is, we have to try and create the network or set up the network in such a way that 80% of the traffic on the network segment is local traffic, right? That is, it should be traveling locally. We can, for this, what we can do is we can normally place the server in a location where there are large number of computers. So there what will happen, it will form a local area network, and within that local area network a large amount of traffic would be flowing. So we have to figure out ways and means such that this maximum traffic is local and it doesn't have to travel between buildings, right? Not more than 20% of traffic, network traffic, should need to move across a backbone. Backbone means the main cabling which connects all the buildings or all the campuses together. So there it is, what it's the main line. Like for example, I'll give a very trivial example. We have our drainage systems, right? Sewage systems. So we have the individual drains of the houses connecting and meeting the main drain, right? So what is it? It just similar to that, we have a main backbone to which all the single networks are connected. So we have to think in such a way that not more than 20% traffic should reach the backbone. That is, not more than 20% traffic has to move from one campus to another campus. So please make a note of this. This is the 80-20 rule, right? Improve network performance, of course, because if we are setting up a network, we would definitely want more from that network. So we have to think about ways and means to improve this network performance. Moving resources, applications, software programs, files from one server to other. So what do we want to do? It is just communication, that is communication between one system and the other system, which may be on the same network or any other network. So what do we need to move? Basically, maybe applications, maybe software, okay, or maybe we need to send and receive files, upload or download files, okay, or we need to simply send some messages. So that is moving resources. To contain traffic locally within a work group, that is within, that's what I said, that if a small network has been created, traffic should be localized over there. Moving users logically or physically, like usually happens that there are computers, just give me a moment students, there are computers placed at arbitrary locations. Okay, we can have one computer here in, we can have two computers in one room, right? We can have one computer here, one computer here, one like this. Okay, so we are connecting these computers together. So physically speaking, it might not look like a ring, but logically it will represent a ring. Okay, so it has to be decided whether Users have to be moved logically or physically. Maybe users are sitting in a very staggered manner, so then too we will think about logically setting up a particular network. And if we want that no, people have to sit in that ring fashion only, that means how it will be, how to move users physically, so that the work groups more closely reflect the actual traffic patterns. That is, the we can monitor, it can be monitored is how packets are traveling in the network. Adding servers so that users can access them locally without needing to cross the backbone. So that's what I said. The 80-20 rule has been just explained over here. So servers, please remember one important thing, that servers to be placed where maximum number of computers are there. Maximum hosts, or I'm just writing computers, are present. So this is one very important rule. That is the 80-20 rule, which we are following to restrict 80% of the traffic in the local area network only. Next is network connection checklist. Now there are certain things which we need to figure out. What do we need? Now what are our requirements? Now it could be a small local area network consisting of 2 or 3 or max 5 to 6 computers, right? So what do we need for that? Client computers with NICs installed. Of course, we need client computers with Ethernet card or LAN card installed. We need a hub. We need cabling. We need networking operating system software. Okay. If your software is capable of handling systems in a network, that is also fine. So this is a minimal requirement needed for building up a small LAN. Just make it a little, just expand it a little bit for connecting offices and departments. Now here it becomes a larger work group. So what do we need here? Clients with NICs installed, servers, hubs, switch. Because if, see, for a small network, hub is sufficient. Even if it is broadcasting messages, if it doesn't create too much of congestion on your, or too much of traffic on the network, that is okay. If your work is done, it's okay. But if suppose you are expanding the network where more number of workstations are going to be attached to the network, then you'll have to think about switching from hub to switch, because switch is a better device as compared to hub, and it would be economical also, because you don't need to divide. Normally many places also what they do is they divide the hubs. They will purchase 2 or 3 hubs and connect only 2 or 3 systems to each of the hubs, so as to reduce the amount of broadcasting traffic due to broadcasting. But instead of purchasing multiple hubs, you can purchase one switch and attach all the computers with it. Cabling, of course, and network operating system software. Router for shared internet, this is optional. Okay. So router for shared internet, that is, if suppose you also want an internet connection, then you need to purchase a router for that purpose. And if you don't need, if you only want a small network, then you can just drop this. Otherwise, these are important or mandatory requirements. Next is for connecting dispersed office sites. Now that so far it was a small network or within a particular office, but now if there are multiple branches of a company, so you will come across case studies where you will see that you will have to uh, also connect dispersed office, like one office branch is in Mumbai, another one is in Delhi. So now this is coming under what? WAN. So what are we going to use there? Again, the usual: client, server, hub, switches, routers at each location for WAN connection. Of course, we would be, and generally we would be using what? Our modem router, our broadband internet broadband router modem for that purpose, which we will be using to connect to the different offices, different branches. Access server for dial-up access for remote users. Now, sometimes we can also need this access server for dial-up access, that is maybe for somebody is or there is one employee who is always traveling, and that employee always needs to be connected to the computer through remote access. So for that, although the work would be done through internet, cabling, WAN service, that is ISDN. Now, ISDN is an obsolete technology, students, okay, which provided a maximum speeds of only up to 128 kbps, okay, not even mbps. So ISDN is what? It's a complete no, but as according to theory, we will go with ISDN. And lease lines, which are actually some privately owned lines. Some companies provide some dedicated lines to certain companies, specifically corporate users, for they so that they get a single high speed connection which would be private to them. No external traffic or external data packets would be traveling through that line. So this lease line is like, the companies have to, the firm has to pay some additional money, or they have to pay high amount of money to the company which is providing the lease line. And normally lease line is provided by public sector companies like BSNL and all, okay, or very large public plus private sector companies which are into this, or basically it is telecom companies which provide these lease lines. Network operating system software, of course, because now the network has expanded a lot, and because there are connected computers, so we would need a network operating system like Windows NT or Linux or any other better operate, or novel netware. These are certain operating systems which are basically used, basically designed for working on a network, in a network environment. So I think these three things are clear to you. That is, what do you need? What are your requirements when a small LAN is needed, or a small or a particular campus, that is office is needed, or dispersed office sites are needed. Okay. So this has to be kept in mind. Now we have to understand how switch is an intelligent device. So let's see. It connects multiple computers. It's a smart device, not dumb as hub, identifies the intended destination. Then it sends information only to the target computer, does not share media or bandwidth among all its connected computers. This is also very important. So that if you have taken a 10 Mbps connection, then this 10 Mbps connection would be received by each of the individual computers, rather than using a hub or a bridge which divides this uh, speed. So if it is 10 Mbps, then depending upon 5 systems, everybody will get how much? 10 divided by 5, that is 2 Mbps only. So that is what this sharing of bandwidth is not done. No unnecessary traffic is generated, can send and receive information at the same time, because it is a full duplex device. So let me explain this thing to you now. Okay, so now what is this full duplex and half duplex? Let me see. One is a source and one is a destination. Okay, even before that you have something known as singlex. When the source sends any signal or any message to the destination only, when it is one directional only, one way traffic, this is what singlex communication. That is, always the communication is in one direction, like the television. Okay, that is when something is, you are watching a television program, so from the television broadcasting station it is coming to your television, and that is in one direction only. You cannot send any, you cannot revert back, you cannot communicate back. That is singlets. Next comes half duplex. Now half duplex means both the sender and the receiver can communicate together, but it has to be like, once when sender is sending any information, at that time receiver will not send anything back. Okay, only after terminating that connection, once this connection is terminated, then again a connection will be established where receiver will be sending information to the sender. Then when that is disconnected, again sender can send messages to the receiver, right? This usually take place in radio communication, when you have a radio speaker, that is a walkie talkie. So this half duplex communication takes place there. And what is a full duplex? And normally your hub is also a half, it also follows half duplex communication, because of which communication is very slow. Whereas full duplex communication means डेटा ट्रैवल साइमल्टेनियसली इन बोथ डायरेक्शंस. एक ही टाइम पे बिना कम्युनिकेशन या कनेक्शन को ब्रेक किए द कम्युनिकेशन कैन continue simultaneously in both the directions. So a two-way simultaneous communication takes place, and this is known as full duplex communication. Okay, between any 2 points on a network, and hence switch follows this full duplex communication, because of which at every time switch can operate at its highest potential, and there would be faster communications between the nodes. Can send and receive information at the same time. So these are all the advantages of switch over the hub, because of which switch is preferred more these days. Difference between hub and switch, this is most important. It is asked in the theory question also, theory exam also, and it is asked in your practical, and it's like a very the favorite question of most external examiners. So please prepare this very well. Okay, repeats incoming traffic to all connections, we already know that. And switch establishes a temporary connection between the source and the receiver, and then the communication takes place. Offers single lane connection, hence either send or receive at a time, whereas this establish a two lane, that is full duplex communication, sending and receiving takes place at the same time. Shares bandwidth among its connections, does not share bandwidth. Each connection gets full bandwidth. Inexpensive choice, whereas switch is expensive as compared to hub. So these are very important differences between a hub and a switch. Now, very important, cable standards used. Now, because you will be working with transmission media, if you remember, we had studied transmission media some time back, where we studied some common transmission media, basically which are divided into two parts. One is guided and one is unguided media. And they are known as transmission media. Why? Because they are the channel through which all communication takes place, right? Now, we had studied within guided media, what all types did we study? One, we had studied the twisted pair cable. There also we had studied two types, UTP, that is unshielded twisted pair, STP, that is shielded twisted pair, where shielded twisted pair provides better protection from outside interference by electromagnetic signals, which is known as noise or crosstalk. Another one is coax or coaxial cable. Okay, and here also we have two types, thin net coax and thick net coax. So thin net is thinner as compared to thick net coax, and thin net has lesser protection from outside interference, but obviously better than twisted pair. but thicknet provides the most protection. And in thicknet coaxial cable, the segment length can increase. That is the maximum allowable length for connecting computers. Okay, and to a single stretch of cable without needing to install any conditioning device like a repeater or an amplifier. तो बिना कोई repeater लगाए या बिना कोई amplifier लगाए हम आराम से उस केबल लेंथ पर systems को attach कर सकते हैं and we can terminate both the ends. So this is the maximum cable length which is known as a segment. So whenever I say maximum segment length, you should think about this, that it is the maximum allowable length for attaching systems or hosts to the cable without needing any external conditioning. And why do we need external conditioning? Because of attenuation, that is loss of signal. If you go on increasing the segment length, what will happen after a certain distance? Signal loss will start becoming significant. Now some signal loss is always there because of resistance of the medium, okay, but that becomes significant, or that becomes very prominent after a certain distance. So that loss of signal or attenuation will take place only after a certain it will become prominent, or it will become unavoidable after a certain distance, and that distance is known as segment length. So please keep this in mind, that we are working with segment length, and this is also one of the very important factors which you have to keep in mind. So thicknet coaxial cables have longer segment length as compared to thinnet coax, and again this thinnet and thicknet coaxial cables have longer segment length as compared to twisted pair cables, and even longer. Now these two are only limited to some meters, that is twisted pair and coaxial cables. Talking about the other, that is fiber optic cables, which is considered best in the industry, there also we have two types or two basic cable types, which are, one is single mode and one is multi mode, where single mode is better than multi mode. Okay, yes, single mode is better as compared to multi mode, as uh, whether it is fast transmission or longer segment length, and usually the segment length here it extends to miles, kilometers, whichever you want to say. Okay, so it extends up to certain kilometers, which is even longer than twisted pair and coaxial cables, but they are very, very expensive and kind of inflexible too, because they are not very flexible. You cannot bend it more than a certain allowed what we can say, a certain allowed angle, because if you try to do this, the very fragile glass fibers inside them will break. Okay, so cable standards used, one is 10 base 5. Let me explain the meaning of this 10 base 5. Firstly, this 10 means it can carry transmission of 10 megabits per second. Base stands for baseband transmission. That is normally baseband. It's a concept of physics, so I won't delve deeper into it. Just you should understand that baseband transmission means all types of transmissions where the frequencies can be near to zero, right? So this is basically suited for all sorts of radio transmissions, right? So base stands for that. I will not go deeper than this, because then it would go beyond the scope of our syllabus. Okay, once we complete our syllabus, then maybe I can explain you in detail about what is baseband. Even I have to study a lot about this, because this becomes a concept of physics. So that is like, I cannot go into physics over here because I also have students from commerce background. So basically it carries waves, electromagnetic radiation, within which within or near to zero frequencies. Okay, so now this is what we have. Certain uh, standards here like RG8, where RG stands for radio grade. So RG8, RG11, these are the various, this one would be a bit thinner, this would be a bit thicker, okay? And thicknet coaxial cable, basically 10 base 5 is a thicknet coaxial cable, which is thicker than thin net coax, and its maximum segment length is 500 meters. Hence, this 5 has been used over here, okay, which is 1640 feet. So maximum segment length, allowable length without extra conditioning is what? 500 meters for thicknet coax. So the basic name, the standard name by which it is available in the market is 10 base 5. Okay. 10 base 5 has become nearly obsolete because it's not used much, but still at certain locations it is still being used. 10 base 2 RG58, that is radio grade 58. It is thin net coax and its segment length is even less, 185 meters. Why 2 is used? Because 185 is almost near to 200 meters. So that is why, for simplicity of it, because it is difficult to write. If somebody writes 10 base 185, that would be difficult to remember. That's why they have used 10 base 2 over there, and 10 Mbps it can provide, can carry data at the rate of, at the speed of 10 megabits per second. Megabits per second. Remember this. It is always megabits per second. And you can understand that by the lowercase b over here. And if it is like this, capital B, it will be megabytes per second. So it is usually not preferred to specify the transfer rate. This is the most preferred way or convention or standard which is used. Next is 10 base T. T represents any type of twisted pair cable, and these are the categories there. Cat 3, 4, 5, where 5, 5E and 6 are the most popular uh, cable standards for twisted pair cable, and its maximum segment length is 100 meters and 10 megabits per second is the transmission speed. 100 base TX, again this is another twisted pair cable standard only, but 100 megabits per second is the transmission speed. And RJ45 is used and its segment length is 100 meters. 100 base FX, so when it comes to FX, it stands for fiber optic. ST and ST connectors. Okay, I have already explained this before, and you can see its maximum segment length, that is 2 kilometers. Okay, and 200 Mbps is its speed, even if it is specified as 100 base FX, but its speed is 200 Mbps. That is because those who have designed the standards, it completely depends upon them. ये इसी नाम से आपको मार्केट में मिलेगा. 1000 base T, Cat 5, 5E6 gigabit Ethernet. Now, because it can carry data at the rates of 1 Gbps, hence it is used for gigabit Ethernet, where you want to create a very high speed LAN, and its maximum segment length is 100 meters. Then 802, now from here we start with wireless, that is unguided media. 802.11b, this is a standard which is created. Usually when you find 802 point something, it means it is a standard created by IEEE. Institute of Electronic and Electrical Engineers. So wireless, no cabling, 150 plus feet is the what is your maximum segment length, and 11 Mbps is the speed. 802.11G wireless, no cabling, 150 plus feet, 54 Mbps. That is slightly more than 802.11B. And infrared, no cabling, that is 16 Mbps only, which is rarely used. So please make a note of these. So I will be sharing now one more thing I want to tell you, students, that I have started. Okay, I'll get back to this a little later. Okay, types of coaxial cables. So thick net, segment length 500 meters, thin net, segment length 185 meters. And you can just see thick net coax comes with an extra layer of braid inside it. That is a small layer with woven thread. Okay, so you can see that, or this could also be sometimes a wire mesh which provides a braided protection, extra layer of protection which is provided to the cable, to this inner central copper conductor, so that this any kind of transmission is safe from any attenuation or crosstalk. Choose now when to choose what. This is most important. Choose twisted pair when low cost is required. Okay, anything the company is not ready to compromise on the cost. They want low cost under any circumstances. Easy installation, where installation is also easy. No high speed data requirements, that is company doesn't want very high speed, but cost should be low, so you should suggest what twisted pair. So here you have to think about yourself as network consultants. Now you cannot be an actual network consultant. Why? Because for being an actual network consultant, you have to be fully aware with network. That's why we have hardware and networking engineers who are more into those things, all the physical details, low level details regarding each of the cables or each of the devices which will be used. So वो तो आप अभी नहीं बन सकते, but this is just, you can just figure out, this is like a training for you, so that if in future you want to get into network engineering, then this would act as a base or a foundation for that. Okay, low data rate up to 100 megahertz, limited bandwidth. Now, because we know that twisted pair cables and coaxial cables, they transmit data in the form of electrical signals, which are continuous sine waves. So that will be represented in hertz, megahertz, gigahertz, and so on, because it is what frequency of the wave which is traveling. Limited bandwidth, transmission over a short range, because we already saw segment length is less. You have to install multiple repeaters. Used for analog transmission, used for digital transmission also sometimes. Susceptible to interference and noise. Yes, and usual preference is 10 or 100 base T, and repeaters should be placed if maximum segment length exceeds your 100 meter, that is 328 feet. So this is what you have to remember. About this used for digital transmission, this I will figure out. I'll find out and let you know. Okay, because as far as I know, twisted pair only supports analog transmission. Maybe this you can ignore this point. I'm just cutting this. Okay, next is use coaxial cable when television signal distribution has to take place, aerial to TV, cable TV, long distance telephone transmission, can carry 10,000 voice calls simultaneously, short distance computer systems link required, LAN formed among some computers. Now using coaxial cable for LAN would be too expensive, but if you have two or more, if you have two nearby buildings, you can connect them with coaxial cables. And if suppose it is like you are trying to connect them using twisted pair cable, but the distance is, the segment length is shorter than the actual distance between the two buildings. Let me just show that to you. These are two buildings, and suppose the length is 250 meters. Okay, so till I mean 100 meters, till 100 meters, just a second. Sorry for that interruption, because I need to also upload this video, so I don't want any disturbance. So for 100 meters, after you can install a twisted pair cable, then again you have to install a repeater here. Again for the next 100 meters, you have to again here install a repeater, and then 50 meters. So instead of doing this, in between you can just extend this cable such that for 185 meters you can just run a coaxial cable and install a repeater over here, one repeater, and the rest of the distance. So what is it? The number of repeaters are saved over here. So this is what, and if you are using a thick net coax, you don't even need a repeater in between, because maximum segment length there is 500 meters. Fine. So this is how we have to figure out, we have to think about which cable has to be used. Placement of repeater is usually like this. Please look here. This is the repeater, and this is could be a hub or a switch. So two switches, in between two switches, one repeater could be there if the segment length is more. Now let me tell you one more thing, that is hub in itself. Hub or switch in itself are repeaters. So if the distance is not much, you don't need to install a repeater even. Okay, only when the distance between these two buildings, this is building A, this is building B, if the distance is more, then in between you need to install a repeater. So students, with this today I conclude the class, and then we'll again get back in the next class. Okay.